In this video, I'm taking you along on a 2,500 mile road trip, and it all started at the MSRA Back to the 50s car show in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, I don't often get this far north, but I had a real good excuse because that's where the Hemmings Great Race, presented by Coker Tire, started this year. And I always go on this trip to photograph these cars, and this year it started at one of the coolest car shows in the world. So for the past few years, my wife has been able to go with me, and that has been a huge blessing. Even though we miss our kids tremendously while we're gone, it's been a huge blessing that she gets to ride the back roads with me. She gets to help me in a lot of different ways as far as driving me while I'm shooting pictures or video. She's shooting video for all sorts of different purposes for social media, and she's just there with me. She's a companion. I love spending time with her. So being able to do this trip together is huge. And we started this thing off in St. Paul, Minnesota, and it was blazing hot. We were expecting it to be a little bit cooler than back home, but it was hot. Major heat wave was coming through, mid to upper 90s. It was kind of miserable as we got started on this trip, but it was still a lot of fun because we got to see a lot of stuff we don't normally get to see. So we're starting everything at the Back to the 50s show, and I wanted to show you some of the cool stuff that I saw. Now, I barely scratched the surface of this show because there was a lot of cool stuff to see, and we had a very limited time to do it. So I just saw some things basically on the way from the parking lot to where we were starting the Great Race. So bear in mind that this is not a comprehensive coverage of the Back to the 50s show, but I wanted to show you some of the cool hot rods and gassers on display. The first thing that caught my attention was this 1963 Dodge. It's a two-door sedan. You can see it's got mismatched wheels with red steel wheels on the back, and under the hood we've got a 426 with cross ram, 2.4s. This is a killer setup. Check out those huge exhaust manifolds. This is what you wanted in 1963 if you were going to go drag racing. You can see those cool wheels and bi-ply tires. That brings back the days of factory drag cars when you could buy a car like this and immediately take it to the drag strip. Here's another cool piece. This old pickup truck was cool enough, but in the back of it there was a midget race car. I guess technically this is a 3/4 midget race car. It's got a Crosley 4-cylinder engine. You can see those staggered pipes, and the owner said that it has an Isky camshaft in it and a lot of other cool vintage speed parts and modifications inside and out. This is a super cool piece that was pretty much as found. This guy hasn't done anything to it besides clean it up and put it on display. Here's another cool one. We've got a flathead Ford with Arden cylinder heads. This is a really wild looking setup that's in a 32 Ford 3-window coupe. Notice the really cool magnesium looking wheels, and the stance on this car is absolutely spot on. It's got some cool lettering on it, and it's got a great mixture of shiny paint, satin paint, primer, just a little bit of everything to give this thing a lot of character. Now this one got my attention. This is a 34 Chevrolet coupe, and this thing looks like it's been together for a long time. You can see that round tube front bumper, and you can see just some of the styling cues here. The polished firewall, the small block Chevy with ram's horn manifolds, the channeled body, the Keystone wheels. I mean, this thing looks like it's straight out of the 1970s. Now here's a killer Corvette. This thing is sitting low on the ground. It's got kidney bean wheels. The black and silver is perfect. You can see fuel injection badges on there. I'm not sure what's under the hood, but it is slick. Now here's a cool drag car. This is a 1964 Chevelle. You can see that it's got pinstriping and lettering that says class of 64. And you notice they took the trim off of the doors so they'd have plenty of room for that lettering. It's got the driver number on the window. It's got a bow tie on the sail panel. It's got a little bit opened up wheel wells on the back, Keystone wheels. Got a lot of cool character from the 1970s. Now here's an old school hot rod. This is a 36 Ford 5-window coupe. It's original paint. It's got a 59 AB flathead V8. It's been bored, it's been balanced, relieved, the whole 9 yards. Isky cam, and the really cool part is this 1939 McCulloch supercharger. It's got two Stromberg 97 carburetors, and this combination was just too cool to pass up. So as we got on the road on the Great Race, we went through a ton of really cool small towns, and we had 17 hosted city stops. We stopped in Rochester, Minnesota. We had several stops in Illinois, Owensboro, Kentucky, Ashland, Kentucky, Frankfort, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. We just went all over the place and saw some cool stuff. Another cool place that we got to stop was the Iowa 80 truck stop. If you're ever in Walcott, Iowa, you gotta stop in. It's a cool place to look at. And the absolute coolest thing was that they gave every single race car free fuel, a free tank of premium fuel for every car in the Great Race. We also got to check out Pontiac, Illinois, which is kind of a destination town if you're checking out cool Route 66 stuff. They've got some neat history there, and they even have a Pontiac museum. It's a small downtown museum, but there's some neat stuff in there, and we, again, didn't have a lot of time to check it out, but we made a pass through, hit the road again. Another cool place in Illinois is Atlanta, Illinois, not to be confused with Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Illinois has a really cool stretch of historic Route 66 right through the middle of their downtown. Another cool thing about Atlanta is it's the home of the American Giants Museum. Now this is set up inside of a really cool vintage service center that's been restored beautifully, and actually the displays are outside because they're so huge. Another really cool thing we got to see is the Cannonball Bridge, which crosses the Wabash River and connects Indiana to St. Francisville, Illinois. Now this bridge is pretty long. It's 1,441 feet long, and it was built in 1897 as a railroad bridge and then later converted to automotive use many years later. But this thing is super rickety. It's a single lane bridge. It's wooden plank and they are loose. So driving over this thing, even in a brand new car, is pretty unnerving. I can't imagine what it was like in some of these 100-year-old cars. We also made a stop in Owensboro, Kentucky. That's the home of Nicky Hayden, a famous motorcycle rider who's no longer with us. They've got an amazing monument right there in town with the American flag flying. A really cool tribute to a great racer. We also got to see a really cool spot in Leachville, Kentucky. On one side of the road is a vintage Texaco station. You can see it's got two vintage gas pumps and a cool sign. On the other side of the road is a very crazy looking setup. You've got two cars on poles. You got a 57 Chevy convertible and like an early 40s convertible. Now the story behind this is these two cars are actually part of a gravesite for Gary Logsdon. He was a car guy there in the area, and that was his wish, was to be buried right there with those two cars on the pole. While we were in Kentucky, we saw Swope's Cars of Yesteryear, a very nicely assembled museum of cars. Lots of variety here. This is in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, on a row of dealerships. It's right in the middle of it. From there, we saw a row of John Deere tractors positioned sort of like Cadillac Ranch. There's just so many things that you see on the Great Race that you just have to stop and capture. Then it was back on the road again. We had another really cool scenic stop in Preston, Kentucky. This is a tiny town, and I'm pretty sure this is the only business in town. It's the store. It's an old school general store right there on the main drag. There's only one road through town. This is it. Unfortunately, none of the race cars could stop because they were on the clock, but we stopped and hung out with the guy for a little while and bought a few things from his store. It was a great experience. Other cool bridges included the New River Gorge Bridge in West Virginia, and as you're crossing this bridge, you do get some cool scenery, but you don't really get a scope of how big the bridge is until you go on Fayette Station Road that goes underneath the bridge. And then when you get to the very bottom of the gorge, you get to cross another cool bridge. So a lot of neat experiences there for these racers and of course for us. We also got to cross the Hearns Mill Covered Bridge, which is just outside of Lewisburg, West Virginia. This thing was built in 1884 and it's still in service today. Single lane, little bitty, short bridge, but still a very historic piece and cool to see old cars passing through it. Now this isn't a bridge, but it's still pretty interesting. Somewhere in West Virginia, there's a tunnel that cuts through the mountainside, and on one side of it, it's got this cool old concrete structure. It's cracked and looks like it's about to cave in on itself, but on the other side, it's been replaced with a giant pipe. It's the weirdest tunnel I've ever seen, but I thought it was cool. One of the most popular questions on the Great Race is what happens when it rains? And the simplest answer to that is you get wet. These cars, especially the open cars, the roadsters with no roof whatsoever, those guys get wet. There is no escaping it. And when you're on the clock and on your course, you can't just stop and pull over. Now, in some extreme situations, people have pulled over if it's unsafe to drive, but for the most part, these guys are racing for a lot of money. There's $162,000 on the line. So yeah, they're going to race in the rain. They're going to get wet. They're going to put their bodies and their cars through a lot of torture to try to get that big check at the end. Quite possibly my favorite stop on the trip was the Virginia Museum of Transportation. Now, they had a lot of cool stuff there, trains and all sorts of cars and things like that. But of course, the thing that got my attention was this very cool front engine dragster. Now, this is the Linwood Eliminator. This is the actual car, the shop car from back in the day, the Linwood Welding Special. This thing has got a blown and injected Hemi engine. It's got the top of the line everything for the 1960s. You can see this car is relatively short, but these things were state of the art from about 1960 until about 1962. And then Linwood transitioned into a new chassis style and eventually phased out altogether. This car has been at a lot of cackle fests, and it's actually made some tire smoking passes in recent years. So it's really cool to see it. I love these Linwood cars because we actually have a Linwood chassis in our shop. One of these days we'll get around to fixing it, but this is a very good example and very nicely restored. By the time we made it into the Carolinas, we were pretty much worn out. We had seen a lot of things, we had done a lot of things, and it was time for this trip to be over. So we had a couple more days of rallying to go, and then a special surprise that would give us a little more adventure on our way home to Tennessee. And then we headed into South Carolina, and on the way there to the finish in Irmo, South Carolina, I happened to pass a really cool looking sign, which is for Union County Dragway. You'll see they've got a car on a pole. It's sort of a funny car style body. You can see it's like a Chevy Monte Carlo. And when I pass the drag strip, I want to pull in. I definitely wanted to see some drag racing action, but I wasn't able to do that. We had to keep on hitting the road until we finally got to Irmo, South Carolina, where we saw the finish and the grand champions be announced, and that was Jeff and Eric Fredette from Beecher, Illinois. They drove their 33 Ford pickup truck to a final score of 49.72 seconds, an absolutely dominating performance in great race terms. That means he was 49 seconds off of the perfect score. And at the very end of this thing, we had to turn in our rental car and we drove a 72 Corvette home. Now that 72 Corvette had just completed the great race. It was a special project with Hemmings. They refurbished this car, everything except for the air conditioner apparently. And Riley from Riley's Rebuilds, you probably know her from Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. She's the girl that got famous for rebuilding Edelbrock carburetors. And she went on the great race and drove this 72 Corvette and worked on it along the way, and they muscled this thing through to the finish line. They also had another project that went all the way from St. Paul, Minnesota to South Carolina. It was a 66 Ford Fairlane, and it gave them even more trouble. But there's a lot of great documentation of their trip on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And the really cool thing about the Fairlane is that it was driven and navigated by a group of content creators. So of course there is a lot of content out there on this car. There's some great female content creators out there in the automotive world, including Real Caroline. She's from the HH Wheels YouTube channel. She has her own Instagram as well. They put a tremendous amount of effort into getting this thing to the starting line and then just absolutely powering through to get to the finish line. Here it is, the Great Race Corvette giveaway car. After 2,300 some odd miles on the back roads of America, it made it to South Carolina, made it across the finish line, and now it's got to make it to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Wow, you can really reach.
In the window.
Mm-hmm. You're getting so tall.
Look.
Wow.
I can't do it with my hands.
No. Sorry. You gotta have a wash mitt like what he's using. Alright, is it ready to spray?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not ready.
Oh, you're not ready yet?
No. Get down here a little bit.